The Raiders announced on February 1st, 2024, that they're bringing in USC senior offensive analyst Kliff Kingsbury to be their offensive coordinator, and that created madness as Kingsbury and Caleb Williams worked this past season together at USC and did a pretty good job. With the Raiders wanting a new quarterback to kickstart their rebuild, along with having Kingsbury and knowing his relationship with Williams, there's a much higher possibility now that the Raiders trade up with the Chicago Bears for the #1 overall pick. And you already know that I and many other content creators have our eyes set on getting Maxx Crosby from the Las Vegas Raiders. But with the Raiders bringing back Antonio Pierce as their head coach and Maxx Crosby literally telling ownership and the front office, hey, I want Pierce back, them bringing him back pretty much solidifies and makes it that Crosby is probably untouchable at this point. But there is still that chance. You never know what's going to happen in the NFL. Bears could still take Caleb Williams. Bears could stick with Justin Fields. Bears could trade Justin Fields. We don't know what's going to happen. Nothing is set in stone at the moment. But in today's episode, I'm going to do a trade where we get Maxx Crosby and another trade where we don't, but we get an even bigger haul from the Las Vegas Raiders. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Dick Brody, and as always, thank you for tuning in. Before I jump into today's episode of two different trade scenarios, one including Maxx Crosby and one without him, make sure to hit the like button on this video if you want the Chicago Bears to get an absolute haul for the #1 overall pick, and if the Raiders are one of the teams that you want them to trade with, along with commenting what trade package you would get from the Las Vegas Raiders, and comment your thoughts on my trade back scenarios. Would you do option 1 or would you do option 2? And before I get into more, I am giving away an autographed Montez Sweat mini helmet to one lucky viewer. All you need to do is subscribe to the channel with notifications, like this video, and comment your thoughts on what trade back you want to do with the Las Vegas Raiders. And yes, you can comment your own. It doesn't have to be either option. So let's start off with the first one, the trade back with Maxx Crosby. And as we all know, Crosby is one of the best defensive edges in football at the moment over the last couple of years. He would thrive across from Montez Sweat, along with defensive coordinator Eric Washington's scheme. With the remaining 3 years left on his massive 4-year, $90+ million contract, the Bears would have to take on an average of $22 million a year in cap if they do a trade with the Raiders, including Maxx Crosby. But I think it would be a strong move for Chicago. You get a 26-year-old in the prime of his career, playing out of his mind, had no help in Vegas, and then he comes and has Montez Sweat on the other side of him, along with a sick rotation of DeMarcus Walker and maybe another edge from the draft. He would thrive here. So the trade back I would do with Maxx Crosby, I would send the Raiders the #1 overall pick, and I would receive the number 13, 44 Crosby himself, a 25 first rounder, a 25 third, a 26 second, and a 26 fifth. Bears are moving back 12 spots in this draft. They are going to miss out on Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. if they do that. Malik Neighbors as well, Joe Olufoshanu, tons of top talent. They are going to miss out on it. Not saying they can't get a super premier wide receiver 2 or edge if they get the 13th pick. Remember, they still have the number 9 pick. But overall, they are taking a lot to trade back that far. And the Raiders know that, and the farther you are away from that #1 pick, the more you're going to have to trade for it. So in total, 6 picks and Maxx Crosby, who's a first rounder in himself. So that is why I am doing that trade back. Now, the more likely option is that the Bears aren't going to get Maxx Crosby, but that's okay because they could get years of picks ahead and a ton of picks this year and next year and the following year. So I actually don't mind this trade back without Crosby. Obviously, I would love him, but it's not as bad as you think. So what I would need for that #1 without Crosby is I'm sending the #1 to the Raiders, but I'm getting the number 13, number 44, number 146, a 25 first, a 25 second, a 26 first, and a 26 fifth. Like I said earlier, Maxx Crosby is a first round pick in himself if you were to do a trade, maybe even 2. So the Raiders have to make up for that. They have to send us a haul. And yes, that's a big risk for them. But if you're getting a guy like Caleb Williams who's supposed to be able to do what he's supposed to do, and he has Kliff Kingsbury back with him, who has proven success as his offensive coordinator, they are going to work to the best of their abilities, and they could be a dynamic duo. So it could work out for the Raiders, but like in Vegas, you're always gambling, and that's what the Raiders would do right here. But again, overall, the Raiders are moving up 12 spots. That's more than the Panthers, and the trade is going to be steeper than the Panthers because there's much more talent in this upcoming draft, and the Bears are also taking a huge risk themselves. Because what I would end up having to do is I would have to use that number 9 on a wide receiver too, or even an edge rusher, and that number 13 on whatever I didn't do at number 9, and then maybe even an offensive lineman. It depends. There's so many scenarios. But the Bears need to know that they're going to be in a good position for the future in case it doesn't work out. And with that 44, I'm going to take the best center possible. The Senior Bowl had some great centers this past year. Really excited for what they bring to the table. So that number 44, I need to have locked in. Put your thoughts in the comment section below. Again, subscribe to the channel with notifications, like this video, and put your thoughts on what trade option you would do or your own if you want to win that Montez Sweat autograph mini helmet. But thank you, as always, for tuning in this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody, and as always, bear down, baby.